All right. Hello, whoever just joined. Hey, Sharon. Just waiting a couple minutes to let everybody get here. Hi, Becca. Hi, Wilma. Hi, Cindy. Hi, Anna. Good to see you, Anna. How you doing? How's everybody doing? Hope everybody's doing okay. I'm having a day. I'm going to be honest. I'm having a day where I'm just off and I'm feeling it. And I'm feeling heavy. So I'm trying to do the things that make me feel lighter. So I'm very grateful that I have this time with you guys today because this always helps. Hi, Cindy. So we got a lot to talk about with this large piece. So the plan, this is going to be one of those, hey, a lot of things don't work out how you planned them. So we're going to talk about that a little bit and what happens with that when you're doing large pieces like this. And we are going to also talk about starting to add in some of this little detail. So I will bring you up to speed with where I'm at so far with this piece and where we're going to go with it. And in the meantime, I'm going to grab my chocolate bar. I'm just grabbing my chocolate bar because I feel like that would be a nice way to cap it off too. I realized I've had a handful of pita chips and half a glass of water today, which is totally not enough, which I'm sure is not helping anyway. Okay, so let's talk about this piece. This is the large piece that we've been working on. This is part 5 of this one. I will give you an update on part 4 in a little bit as well. But for now, for part 5, let's talk about what the plan was going to be. The plan was going to be that I was going to repeat these 3 rows on the outside. And then for today, we would go in and start working on all the little tiny detail and filling it all in, erasing guidelines, all of that good stuff. So part of that is going to happen today. But let me show you what I ran into. So, let me put this down. That might help instead of staring at a light. Sorry, guys. So with this row here, we had done started these on the last live. And what I ended up finding was, what the hope was, is to not have a huge ton of space in between them, but these turned out smaller than, for whatever reason, for what I had estimated. So there was a ton of space in between. So I initially thought, okay, well, I'll just go in and add more, and that'll just be a tighter grouping of these petals. But what's happening is the space now is not large enough to do petals that are the same. So there are decisions to be made here. And to be brutally honest, I'm not completely sure what I'm going to do. I feel like I need to sit and think about it for a little bit. And maybe once I start adding in more detail from the center on the way out, then it'll make more sense to me of what to do out here. But this is something that can commonly happen, right? You can be working on something, think you've got the spacing the way you want it to, and then just not have it work out exactly the way you wanted it to be. I want to create something in this row that is going to be even with these petals, so then I can alternate, and in these alternate spaces do more petals or go with the swoops. So the key is, how do I get these ones out to the same space as this without being able to do this many rows. Because if I do this many rows, then the dark purple is going to overlap on this. And I mean, it's not necessarily a huge deal. However, it's not turning out the way that I had pictured it in my head, and that's what I'm really struggling with today. So because of that, and because knowing that I'm just not in the greatest of mindsets today, I'm not going to push this. I'm not going to push this to try and figure out what to do. I tried that. It did not work. I got more frustrated and just really, I needed to walk away from this for a little bit. So what we are going to do today, hey, Catherine. What we are going to do today is we are going to erase a lot of these guidelines in the middle, and we are going to work on these swoops. Now, I did go ahead and I added a couple of swoops in the center here to start going around because I really needed to make a decision on whether this dark purple was going to work or not. It's so dark that when you're standing across the room, you can't see it. So that is my dilemma here. So I wanted to put the next darkest purple up against it to see if that was something I was going to be able to work with. So what I think I'm going to do is I will keep this darker purple, and eventually I'll put some of that next color, maybe do some walking dots down the middle to fill that in, and start to kind of fill in these spaces a little bit. The other reason I wanted to do this is I wanted to see how much room was going to be left for these swoops here, so I can see if I can add in a couple little more swoops down here, and I definitely can. So sometimes just trying it out, seeing how it looks, can give you a lot of information, a lot of useful information as far as feedback on what to do next. So I'm going to start with erasing the guidelines, just going over everything with my eraser. Now, I did use watercolor pencil crayon, so I could also do this instead of with an eraser. I could do this with a wet cotton swab, a wet Q-tip. I just find that the eraser works really well for me, and then I go in and I do touch-ups with the wet cotton swab if the eraser doesn't get it all. Now, you could leave your guidelines here. A lot of artists do still leave their guidelines on until they're completely done their piece. What I have a problem with that is I find that they get in the way of me being able to visualize the design and knowing where I have space. I find it influences the design because it's not a true empty space. So I like to go in, and once I get to the point where I'm ready to add detail, I first determine, are there any guidelines that I need to keep? Are there any that will, having them removed, will that impact my ability to complete this design, or will it slow me down or hinder me in any way? And if the answer is no, then I go ahead and get rid of them, because then it gives me the ability to put the piece up on its side and look at it from far away and see what is missing and what I want to do about it. So I'm going to go in with the eraser first, and we're going to start working from the very center of this piece again and working out, filling in lots and lots and lots of little detail, and constantly doing the stand-up test where I stand it up against something and look at it from a little farther away just to see if it's turning out the way that I had intended to, and the contrast. Now, a lot of this contrast is going to be done with white, but we are going to add in some other shades of purple as well, and we're going to do some top dots while we're going through this too. So I'm going to erase right out to the edge of this band of purple dots, and then I'm going to grab myself a cotton swab and wet it down and clean up any of those little bits in there. I did an impromptu joint live with Shannon, the Non, on TikTok this morning. I was scrolling through, just about to turn off my phone, and I saw she was live. And she's like, why don't you hop on and we'll just do a joint live? So we did for a little bit, which was lovely. Lovely to do. But we kind of got talking about how, you know, art is healing, but art is also therapy. And sometimes you have to be able to identify what is the reason that I'm painting today? Am I painting because it's enjoyable and I want to do something fun and because I'm acting from a place of inspiration? Or am I acting from a place of needing a bit of healing and therapy? And neither is the wrong answer, but it can produce very different results when you're painting, right? And they can, like I said, yeah, they're both incredibly valuable forms of motivation and inspiration. But it's really important to be able to kind of, at least in my life, I find it very important to be able to recognize which side I'm coming from. Am I coming from a needing some healing place? Is it escapism? What is it that is driving my inspiration and motivation on that particular day? So today for me has been about healing, and just not healing anything in specific, but it's definitely the therapy healing kind of from a heavier place. Probably some escapism in there too. And I'm okay with that because they're all valid forms of motivation and reasons why we do the things that we do to try and feel better. But I know from myself that the levels of inspiration and ideas that come to me from this place are nowhere near as potent and powerful and exciting as when I come from a place of just kind of passion and excitement and all of that. So the reason I'm kind of going into this quite a little bit today is you're probably going to feel a bit of a different energy with me because I feel it a lot while I'm sitting here. I know that this is not the energy that I want to spend the rest of my day in. So I am looking forward to sitting here and spending some time with my therapy. So typically when I'm in this kind of mind space, I might just end up going off on some tangents on some kind of deep stuff. That's very, very possible. But just kind of, it might be something that you find useful to ask yourself, why am I doing this today? Am I doing it just because this is what I enjoy doing and I just want to do it? Am I doing it because I feel I need to? And where is that inspiration and motivation coming from? Just, again, not because there's any wrong answer, but just to really have a good handle on your own energy. Okay. What do you mean, Anna? Which stuff am I using? Are you talking about paints or what do you mean? I'm using a wet cotton swab right now to remove these lines and just some water. And you can kind of, some of the paint is going to come off, but don't panic with that because we are going to go in and do touch-ups at the very end of this piece as well to fill in any spots where any of the background paint maybe isn't as opaque as we'd want it to be. But for now, we're just going to continue forward. And we'll deal with those touch-ups later. I always have a couple really tiny black paint brushes, just like when I'm going to fix a mistake. I will go back in at the end of the piece, kind of, it's almost like I should go in with a magnifying glass, and I'll just go in and start adding little bits of black touch-up to the spaces that aren't quite looking the way that I want them to for the background. Oh, thank you, Cindy. I think it's going to look really good. And you know what? That's the other part of, trying to be aware of my mindset today is I want to continue to enjoy this piece. I really want to see it through. And unfortunately, this is the issue with doing a large piece over large amounts of time, very, very spread out, right? Because the inspiration comes from different places and that can impact what you come up with. You're welcome, Anna. I hope that answered your question. All right, so we are going to start to delve into little tiny detail now. Hi, Christy. Catherine, I haven't been able to catch up with anyone, but I have been busy on my own with 11 colors of the rainbow for Pride Month, and then have it. Oh, that's fantastic, Catherine. I hope you're doing well. It's good to see you. All right. So for the majority of this first little center section, I'm going to be using white paint to add some detail. We're going to add in really teeny tiny dots. So if you have a nail dotting stylus tool that looks like this, that doesn't really have a metal ball at the end, it's just a point, that's what we're going to focus on for right now as we go through this center part. I'm really glad you made it today too, Christy. I was really hoping you'd be able to be here today and be able to create a little bit and hopefully take some breaths. I'm glad that you guys are all here. Thank you for coming to hang out. And let's jump in then. So I'm going to zoom right in. And if this camera angle becomes an issue, you just let me know. Now, so I'm going to go in with white. Oops. Had to pick some hair off of the end of the tool. And I'm just going to do really tiny dots in between these white ones. And we're going to continue this pattern around these walking dots. Now, the one thing I'm actually seeing that I do need to do, sometimes I'll do the little black paint touch up as I go. I think I'm actually going to wait and I'll do it all at the very end. I think that's what I'll do. And sometimes adding these details is kind of nice because you don't have to go all the way, you don't have to spin your painting as much. And then in the center dot, we are going to do a whole bunch of top dots. I'm not going to do that today though because I've got some cracks on there that I want to sand down a little bit and actually change go for the darker purple and be able to really step by step add top dots to lighten it up to make it look kind of 3D almost. So I'm going to actually sand this part down and then we'll go in there and I'll create a video for that as well if we don't end up doing it on a live. And then I'm going to go into the next row and do exactly the same thing. Now you might find that you want to do 2 dots, like one in the bottom and one in the top. You might not want to do just the one in the middle. Fill in that space however you like. I like to do the single dot simply because it leaves some more of that black exposed and I like the contrast, especially with this purple as it's getting darker and darker. It's nice to have the really nice clear bits of contrast there. I just get sandpaper from the dollar store. I wait until the whole piece is good and dry, and then I'll go at it with a little bit of sandpaper. These little bits of dotted detail, as we get through this and start kind of zooming out and looking at the progression of what it does, it's a subtle difference to you as the painter and maybe even to a viewer. Like if you showed one picture without the tiny dots and one picture with, it doesn't always stand out super, right? It doesn't always go, wow, that was such a big difference. Top dots really do have more of the wow and oomph factor, but this is going to give a subtle difference where you're going to go, oh, there's something different, right? I only use just a tiny piece. Why will I sand it down? So number one, I just use a little tiny piece and I wrap it around my fingertip and I just do this. So I'm not using a huge piece of sandpaper I'll literally rip a strip that's like the size of a Band-Aid and I will just sand that little bit. The reason I'm doing that is because the paint's cracked. You can see the crack in the middle there. That happens a lot of times with some of the more watery paints. What causes the cracking is when the edge dries significantly faster than the center of the dot. That causes some puckering and some buckling and some weird drying, and that typically has the cracking. Now, it's usually from the waterier paints, like I said. Even if you use like dollar store paints like I do, even adding a little bit of pouring medium to the dollar store paints will help to reduce the chance of cracking there too. But if this happens, you can always just give it a little sand and then go back over top of it with some other paints, and then just apply the paint a little bit thinner, especially when you're going to do a bunch of top dots, right? The dots don't have to be super perfect when you're doing a whole bunch of layers of paint. So the base dot doesn't have to be super perfect. As long as it's round and it has the right color around the edges, the inside can be a little bit thinner and not quite as pretty and plump as we normally would like to see it. But adding pouring medium to your regular craft acrylics, it is going to make it a little waterier, but literally add like a drop. Like if you have a little dropper, adding one little tiny drop can make a big difference and help reduce the cracking. So I'm going to make these ones, because there's a little bit more space, I'm going to make these dots ever so slightly larger than the other tiny white dots. And sorry for my huge hand getting in the way. I'll try and keep it down by where the comments are. And this one I actually will turn a bit. I hope that answers your questions, you guys. If it doesn't, please let me know and I will happily go into more. And if you're painting along with me, let me know if you have any questions about where you're at, what you want to do going forward, all of that good stuff. Oops. Okay, so update on part 4 from last week's tutorial. I had music on. What I do is I upload the video. So this is specifically for Patreon members or anybody who was looking to potentially get a copy of this tutorial once it goes onto the website, because I'm going to bundle all of these Saturdays together for that. Part 4 is going to have no sound, and it might be just sped up hyperlapse just to make that a little bit easier to get through, because YouTube has blocked my video because there was music playing in the background, so I can't upload it, which is really frustrating. Really, really frustrating. But it is what it is, so we'll deal with it. Okay, so now let's take a quick look. I'm going to back it up and see how that little bit of detail just fills it in a little bit, right? It just adds that little bit of an oomph factor. Now I'm not going to do the same going in here because I've got the tails of the swoops coming in here, and I'm going to do some very, very skinny swoops on either side of these purple ones. I'm going to actually continue to use this tool. No, actually I'm going to go to a nail dotting stylus tool that is fairly small, and I am going to go with color number 2. So I'm mixing it up. I'm not using the exact same color. And this is where adding the detail becomes really, really subjective, right? You want to look at where the contrast is, what's going to blend nicely, what is the kind of look that you're looking for. And the reason I'm not going, so when we started with white, then color number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, this is color number 4, this is color number 3. In my mind, I don't like to put color number 3 next to color number 3. So that's why I'm going to go for number 2, because it's down here and there's still some black space in there. That's where my mind goes. Doesn't mean that that's the right thing to do. Doesn't mean that it's not going to look good if I did do color number 3, because I am going to put top dots on all of these eventually as well. But it just gives me that little bit of contrast there. And actually, you know what? As I say that, why don't we do the top dots now? So on color number 1, on the lightest shade of purple, I'm going to do white top dots. So whatever size you did in the middle, you want to do something that's smaller than that, but not overpoweringly so. So what I always do is I always try to test it with a small tool to see if it's going to be a large enough dot. And I'm happy with that size of a dot for a top dot there. If I wasn't happy with it, if it was too small, then I would find a bigger tool and do that. So I always try to err on the side of caution and go for a smaller tool, because if I decide it needs to be larger, I can always cover up that dot. I hope that makes sense, you guys. Now, top dots are fun to play with because you can create some really cool color gradients. If you're using different, all different colors, just changing the color of the top dot can give it kind of almost like a really cool trippy look. I'm a big fan of doing the going light, gradually lighter and lighter and lighter and lighter, because I think it looks like it's almost glowing in the dark, or like 3D, like they're coming off the page. So that's my personal preference, but I have done color on color before, like different colors. But it's totally up to you. So with every one of these dots that's here in the middle, what I'm going to start with is adding another small top dot that is 1 shade lighter. So on shade 2, I'm going to use shade 1. And on shade 3, I'm going to use shade 2. And then eventually what will happen is I will get to the point where I'm adding layer after layer after layer. So here I'm going to add shade 1, and then eventually I'll put a little tiny white dot on there as well, because I want to bring these up to white. So when I get out to these dots out here that are shade 5, the darkest shade of purple, I'm actually going to put shade 4, 3, 2, 1, and white all on this dot to make it really stand out. Okay, so that takes a lot of time. Where these top dots come in, you got to give them a lot of time to dry and be ready for that next layer of paint, especially again if you're using thinner paints like I do, that could potentially crack. And some of them you might not see the difference. Okay, so like on this number 1, it's not showing up dramatically on color number 2, and that's okay, because it's going to be such a tiny, slight, small difference that when we're looking at it from farther back, we will be able to see the difference, and especially once that little white top dot goes on there. But there's very little difference between color number 1 and color number 2 in these purples for me. But it's still going to create a cool gradient. So when you're using all one color, or if you want to do that gradually dark to lighter to get that kind of 3D effect, that's when you just consistently add a little bit more white and a little bit more white until you get the colors that you'd like. Now when you're doing a large piece, it's important to remember again that you don't want to get too granular with the detail without checking to see how that translates to looking at the piece from across the room, right? If you are up super close to it and you're adding a detail that you want to see when you're up super close to it, testing it to see how it looks from far away to make sure it doesn't make your design muddy and full can be really, really helpful. Also looking at it to make sure that it doesn't that the design itself is still distinct and you're seeing the background color, so you're getting that contrast to really help you see everything. Okay, so now I'm going to color number 2 because these dots here were color number 3. This is one of the benefits, again, when you're working on pieces that you're going to set aside for a while, creating this reliable pattern that you can kind of go back to. Like I remember that I started that center dot with white 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way out to those dark purple swoops, which was number 5. In my head, that is a natural progression that I know I can remember when I come back to it and want to add in that detail. So when you're choosing the size for your top dots, it's completely up to you as far as how much space of the previous dot you want this dot to take up, your top dot to take up. So the key for me when it comes to creating that nice symmetry so that when you are doing the top dots and you get that kind of glow in the dark look or the 3D look is trying to keep the same amount of the previous dot visible when you add the next layer. So for example, let me put this dot down and let me zoom in. So even around the white dots, you see how much space there is around the white dot, so much how much of the purple is still visible. That's the kind of consistency that I want to keep up. So in theory, if I was going to do another top dot on top of the white, I would want it to be so tiny that the amount of white showing is pretty much the same as the amount of purple showing. Okay. Hi, Elizabeth. I'm glad you were able to pop in and say hi. So it's really important to kind of play around with your tools. And that's again why I say err on the side of caution and go small. And then if you decide you need a little bit more, then you can always go back in with a larger tool and add more paint and change the size of your dot. Otherwise, you just want to make sure that you try and keep it as even as possible. I found that the top dots that I am the least happy with are the ones that I've chosen a size way too big and not enough of the previous dot shows through. Because you want enough of that base color dot to show through so that you can start to see that progression. All right? I hope that makes sense anyway. Now, the other option is you can change the placement of your top dots as well. You don't have to do top dots all in the center like that, right? You can do top dots where the dot is, for example, let's look at this one. If I wanted to, I could do top dots where the dot is aligned down here at the bottom of the center dot as opposed to in the middle. So it's completely up to you where you want to align them. And again, that's one of those things that takes practice and trial and error. See what you like, and if you don't like it, don't do it again, right? Or decide what you want to do. We'll be gone soon. Okay, home soon. Okay, that's much better, Elizabeth. It's good to see ya. Oh, nice. I'm glad you're having a good day, and I'm glad you've got nice weather. That's wonderful. All right, so here we go. Keep going with the top dots on this last row here, and then we will get into the swoops. The swoops beside the swoops. So again, don't panic if your first layer of top dots doesn't look that different from the color that is down below it, okay? It's totally okay. Going to be fine. I promise you. Promise, promise, promise. All right. So now, like I said, I'm going to use color number 2 next to these swoops here. I'm going to use a fairly small nail dotting stylus tool and do some fairly skinny swoops right here. This one I was using color 4 next to color number 5, and we'll keep going that way. And then I'll find some kind of embellishment, maybe even just using color number 4 and maybe do some walking dots down those swoops. So up close, you'll see the nice dark, dark, dark purple, but it blends in so much to the black that again, from far away or across the room, it's really not standing out. So putting those few little top dots on there will add probably just enough contrast that it's a little bit more clearly visible anyway from across the room. Taking a bite of my chocolate. Okay, so color number 2 again, so your second lightest color. Hopefully you can't hear me chewing. I know it sounds like my mouth is full, but at least if you can't hear me chewing. So I'm going to the left of the swoop and slightly down. I'm going to let enough of a good chunk of the paint kind of ease its way down, And then I'm just going to pull it all the way down. And I'm going to do the same on the right-hand side. Now, one of the things that we talked about in the mug party last night is the idea of muscle memory, right? I don't like that one at all. That one just turned out to be a straight line. I'm probably going to paint over that one. So the idea of muscle memory. Muscle memory can be very useful for you, especially when you are practicing a new technique, a new part of a design. Muscle memory can really help you get that practice in and help you develop muscle memory. So the more you can repeat the same design going in the same direction, the quicker your muscle memory is going to develop for that particular part of the design. So what I mean by that would be like I have done here where I did all of this, the right side swoop, go and do all of one side and then go back in and go and do all of the other. That will help you create some muscle memory as opposed to when you look at my hand here, my hand is over here for this swoop, but then I have to move it over here for this one. So I'm not really creating a lot of rhythm there, whereas if I was here, I'd spin, I'd spin, I'd spin, I'd spin, and I can kind of keep doing back and forth and back and forth. I hope that makes sense. Oh, and now I know why this isn't turning out, because I used the pin on the end of, now I know. Poop. Okay, so I forgot that when I laid down these first swoops, I actually used the pin on the end of my pencil eraser to pull that paint down. So let's see if I can do that with this one. Might not be enough paint on there. So I can always add in more. Oh, there's something stuck in that paint there. There was a hair or something in there. There we go. So you can do the dragging with the actual dotting tool itself, or you can do the dragging with the pin. And just looking at the difference between the two swoops, I like the look of this one over here on the right better. It looks just a little bit cleaner. Doesn't get all smooshy down here on the bottom. It's not quite as thick. I like that it kind of tapers out a lot faster. So what I'm probably going to end up doing with this one is painting over these ones and redoing them once they're all dry, which we might even be able to do by the time we get around to the other side of the piece, by the time we make it all the way around the circle. So this one's going to be tight. That's okay. Now the ones in the row above, I'm going to have to keep doing with swooping the tool because they're already done, but that's okay too. This is where I start to question myself and saying, why are you jamming so much in here? Maybe you didn't need to do that, but we're doing it anyway. There we go. I hope that makes sense to everybody anyway. So let's see here. Need to add some more paint. Feeling like this wasn't the best decision, but we're gonna make it work. Ain't going back. Oh, except that one just exploded on me. All right. It's going to be one of those days, guys. It's going to be one of those days. Okay. I'm going to try something different. I'm going to try my small tool that I was using. Ooh, that was really close. Sorry. The small tool that I was using for the little tiny detail dots. Okay, I'm going to try this one to do a swoop in here and see if I like the look of it better. And again, the worst thing that's going to happen is that I'm going to have to come in here and paint over this with black paint once it dries. And then once, and that's not going to take very long, thankfully. It's not like the mugs where you have to wait a good hour before you can go in and fix something on the canvas. It should dry fairly quickly. Hi, Jerry Lynn. Yeah, you got to breathe it out sometimes, right? And just, whew. And that's why sometimes, too, I'll abandon one part of the canvas, move to something else, and then come back to it. That's totally okay, too. But we will fix this. So I figure if I'm not super happy with these and I'm already kind of planning on going in and painting back over them, I might as well try something a little bit different to see if that can alleviate this frustration or alleviate this problem that I have in my mind. Or if it's just better to start from scratch. That was better. Did that feel better to anybody else? Look at that beauty. Yes, that's the feeling. That's what we're waiting for. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my own advice in muscle memory, and I'm just going to do that one side all the way around, and we will come back. Isn't it crazy what a difference the gesso makes, Catherine? It's crazy. It was a total game changer. Total game changer. So I'm going to add a little bit more paint here. And I'm just going to keep going with the muscle memory, because then I should be, once I consistently create these little swoops, my confidence is going to go up. I'm going to have a much more secure idea of how I am creating these swoops and how fast I need to go. All of that stuff. And notice how slow I'm going. Okay, I'm not going to be super picky if they don't make it all the way to the bottom. That's okay, but I am going to go back in over this one. Pull it down just a little bit. And then that one exploded a little bit on me, kind of burst out the sides, but that's okay. I'm going to come back and do it again after. Sometimes it's just a little bit of practice. I'm sorry if this is making you dizzy. If you want me to zoom back out, please let me know, because if the spinning of the canvas is making you dizzy when you're watching it, please let me know. It's almost like on canvas, the slight pulling down with the tool really isn't the best. It's like that works better on a smooth surface like a mug. But this is definitely better. Definitely better. Let a bunch of the paint pool down off of the tool and then start to drag it down nice and slow. Much better. Much better, much happier with that. Yay. Okay, and I'm also learning from this that I don't want to let the paint sit and pool where I place the top of the swoop for too long, because then it's going to make a shorter swoop and the paint's not going to travel as far. So while I do want to let the paint drip off of the tool and pool onto the canvas, I don't want to do that only from up at the top of the swoop. I want that paint to stay on the tool so I can continue to drag it down. So I'm going to move it a little bit faster away from the top of the swoop, but still move it very slowly from top to bottom. I'm just not going to sit at the top for very long before I move down, because that is much better. I hope that makes sense, you guys. What colors are you doing for your canvas, Catherine? And if you feel comfortable to share it with the group when you're done, we'd love to see it. If you're comfortable, of course. Okay. Hi, Chris. How you doing? It's good to see you. I'm glad you're able to pop in. Really glad you guys have all been able to pop in and hang out. It's lovely to see you. There we go. Now I'm getting the hang of it. Getting the hang of it. I am cleaning off the tool after every single swoop, just because then I can control the amount of paint on the tool as much as possible. So there we go. All right. And who knows, once I get all of these on, I might go back and look at the center and say, you know what, I'm not painting back over those ones that I didn't like because they look okay, right? So we'll have to wait and see, but for now I'm gonna go back over to where the left side of the swoop is ready to paint. Again, hoping I'm not making you too dizzy or nauseous by the spinning here. And let's see what we can do. Catherine says, well, I'm doing the June challenge on my first canvas, so, oh, wonderful. Yay, I'm excited to see. Chris's best day so far, getting ready for your 40th birthday party. 40 has hit me like a Mack truck. Oh, honey, I'm so happy for you. What are you doing for your party? And is today your birthday, Chris? Oh, it's the rainbow colors. Thank you, Sharon, for refreshing my memory. Oh, that's going to be awesome. Oh, I can't wait to see what you guys do. That's amazing. 40 has hit you like a Mack truck, but look at you. You're still standing. You're still going. You haven't been beaten. You're doing great, Chris. June 11th was. Well, happy belated birthday, and I hope you have an absolutely amazing birthday party and have so much fun. I hope you have a day full of some laughs and full of love. Oh, that's so much better. All right. This is another example of when you're super, super close to the painting, emotionally and physically, you might see stuff that you don't really like up close, right? Like these swoops. But I might get to the end of this piece again and go back and look and say, nah, they're fine, right? It's totally going to depend on how you feel as you go. So I might go back in and paint over them in black. I might just leave them as is. They might look totally fine. Right? We never know. Never know until you get to the end of it and you take a look. And then you can go in and change stuff. All right, I'm going to turn again to there. Jig that one up a little, move some paint around. Here we go. And the cool thing is, again, when you're super, super close to it for a while, when you get to take that step back and look at how it looks, it can be really gratifying. I think that's happening because I'm holding the tool more on its side, so it's getting paint from the side there. That's okay, because I'm gonna cheat here and just pull that up a little bit. Might have to paint over that one too, but I'm totally okay with it. I'm kind of okay with today that if 50% of the things do work out really well, I can fix the other 50% later. That's kind of how I'm feeling. There we go. All right, so we're gonna back it up here and take a look now at how this looks from farther away. And just that little bit of color made a big difference, eh? Really big difference. So now we're gonna go in and we're gonna do the color on the other side of the swoops that are by the darkest purple. And I'm gonna lift this up because, oh no, my tool's not under there. I'm looking for my other dotting tool. I wouldn't have put it away where it's supposed to go, would I? That doesn't sound like me. Oh, and I did though. Well, look at that. Thanks, Catherine. Half full, half empty, exactly. Exactly. So there we go. So now we're gonna go in. I'm gonna be using color number 4 because these swoops are surrounding color number 5. And do the next set of swoops here. Is that number 4? Yes, it is number 4. Okay, so we're gonna zoom back in again to here, and we're gonna start on these ones. Now some of them are gonna run over. I'm gonna try and pull them down so that they're pointy enough of a swoop and that it still does what I want it to. It might not work though. So let's say that you get to the end of a big piece like this and none of it's looking the way you want it to, or a huge section of it is not looking the way that you wanted it to. Right? Like that swoop there, not happy with it. You can always paint over it. Oh, this is frustrating me. Okay. I gotta get back into that mindset of what I did on the top ones, which was I did the dragging, a little bit of the kind of brush strokes almost, and then drag it down. There we go. All right, we're okay. We're okay. Here we go. I'm just gonna keep moving. I know, right? Lots of deep breaths today. And you know what, it's the reality of it, right? Life happens. We feel differently. We're not sure of what we're doing. We're questioning what we're putting down on the canvas or the surface. We're questioning our ability. We're questioning, crap, I thought I had this and now I'm not getting it. And this is so frustrating. And I wonder if I'm ever going to get it. You're going to go through waves of stuff like that. Right? Like as frustrating as it can be, if we can go into it knowing that it's going to happen sometimes and it's going to be okay, right? It's all going to be okay, right? And that's a really hard thing to remember a lot of the times, especially when you're right in it, you're working on a really big piece that you've invested a lot of time in. And I don't even necessarily mean big as in size-wise, right? But just something you've invested a lot of time in, a lot of energy in there. Exactly, Sharon. Be Dory. Just keep swimming and just keep going. It's going to be okay. And one of my favorite mantras that I use that I got from Abraham Hicks is, everything is always working out for me. Everything is always working out for me. I love when I recognize that things are always working out for me. Whether I can recognize that they're actually working out in the moment, in hindsight, I can say, you know, this brought me growth. This brought me learning. This brought me patience. I know I'm on the right path, and I know that everything is going to be okay. And in this moment, and it goes again to the only thing that exists is this moment, right? This is the only thing that actually exists. the future doesn't exist because it's not happening yet. The past doesn't exist because it's not happening now. The only thing that actually exists right now is this moment. And in this moment, everything is okay. Right? That was one of the things I would talk to and say to myself a lot when I was feeling a panic attack coming on. And even during panic attacks, it helped me an awful lot. Everything is okay. Everything is okay. In this moment, right now, everything is okay. I'm so scared I'm going to start to work this week part-time for the first time in years. Oh my goodness, Catherine. That's going to be a big change. That's going to be a really big change. Is it scared excited or just scared anxious? How are you feeling? How can we help? And how can we help support you this week while you're going through that change? Slowly moving around. Here we go. It will work out. Everything will be okay. And you're going to do great, Catherine. You are going to do great. You've got excellent energy. You've got a great mindset. You take that wherever you go and you are going to be totally fine. But if there's anything that we can do to support you, you let us know. It's hard. It's hard putting yourself out there to be seen. It's really, really difficult. So yes, Sharon is 100% right with her congratulations, right? You can do this. You can totally do this. And not only just do it and get through it, you can excel in this. And you're going to do great. It's a lot. It's definitely a lot. Okay, I'm just going to take a quick drink here. And then we're going to do a zoom out. Damn right you're doing it, Catherine. So there we go with our zoom out. So getting a little bit more detail in there. This is where, again, you kind of go through some pieces, add some detail, and then come back again to see if there's more. I don't know yet if I'm going to want to add in some spaces, anything in here or in these spaces here. So I'm going to wait for that paint to dry, see how the rest of the piece progresses, and then kind of go from there. But for now, we're going to get back to the little tiny white detail. And this time, I think, just to make my own life a little bit easier, I am going to go to my micro dotter tool. It can still create some pretty decently sized dots as well. But I think it's going to help with this little tiny detail for a little bit. So if you do have a micro dotter tool or a super sharp pencil, anything like that, that might be something that helps you with all of the little detail work that we're about to do. Hi, Molly. Hi, Tammy. You guys are doing awesome. You guys are so amazing. And I'm doing good. Sorry I missed the beginning. Did everything go well with your camper? Yes, I got the camper day before yesterday. And it is sitting outside. We are just working out how we're going to get power out there and how we're going to get internet, and I'm going to start moving stuff in. The goal is to have me fully moved in and functional for July 1st. So we're really, really, really excited. We have a new family member moving in with us beginning of July as well. His name is Aaron. And he is he's been disowned by his family, basically. Been kicked out, told that he's not accepted because he is trans, and needs a place to stay. So me moving into the camper gives him a home, which is wonderful. So we're going to have a new family member here in the next little bit. So I'm really, really excited. Really excited. A customer was going to drop off an order. I was going to drop off an order for, just DM'd me and says she doesn't want it anymore. Oh, Molly, I'm so sorry. Start getting that money ahead, lady. That's going to be your best way to avoid stuff like that happening. That's the best way to do it. It sucks, but you got to do it, or at least get half. Thanks, Catherine. Thanks, Janice. Yeah, I'm really excited. Will I have hookups for water? No, I'm going to have a water tank that I'm going to also try and get some rain barrels and start collecting water for that sort of stuff. But for now, no, we're not going to. Eventually, the plan is to get another well dug out by the barn and be able to hook me up to that water. But for now, we're just going to go with the water tank and go from there. And eventually I'll get a water purifier for cooking or stuff like that. But I'm probably going to go with a lot of bottled water that way. Thanks, guys. I'm really glad. I'm really glad too. It's something that's, I think it's such a wonderful thing. Wonderful, wonderful thing. Well, I asked to e-transfer, but she only had cash. Yeah, no more cash deals, Molly. That sucks, though. Unless it's somebody you personally know and trust, obviously, right? That sucks. Right? I think so, too. I think so, too, Jerry Lynn. I think it's wonderful. And, you know, it's, so it's moving everything along quite nicely. And he'll have a place where he's accepted and loved and doesn't need to be anybody but himself. I will have a place where I get some solitude and stuff back, and all of that stuff is going to be really, really exciting. All right, so let's see. I'm going to go in with the micro dotter. You can see these 3 dots that I already laid down in there just as an example. I'm just going to put some more paint on top of them because they are a little gnarly. I'll put that over there. And then start filling in all of these spaces between these purple dots. The thing I really like about the micro dotter so much is that the paint just flows off of it so nicely. These micro dotter tools are from Amazon. There you go. There you go, Molly. You'll have that stone. You'll have that sold in no time and give it a new home. So after we're done this live, I've got to go run some errands. Oh, and of course I'm not even painting on camera anymore. Sorry, you guys. I have some errands to run, and I'm also going to run to the storage unit and start picking up stuff to move into the camper. And start getting settled in there. The big thing is power, so we're hoping to have power figured out over the next few days, hopefully. Because the sooner I can get out there, the sooner we can start preparing for Erin's arrival, which will be nice. Well, and that is a plus, Molly, for sure. At least you knew before she got there. Very, very gentle touch, right? Totally. I can't get the paint to come off with the micro dotters. Oh, no way. Oh, that's interesting. I wonder if it's just the paints themselves, if your paints are thicker. Maybe it's just the waterier paints that kind of do that a little bit. Oh, thank you, Molly. So one of the ways to get the paint to start flowing, I find if I let the tool touch the surface, then it almost like it slows the paint coming off. Whereas if I start it and do the first couple of dots without the tool actually touching the surface, then it kind of gets it flowing a little bit. But it's almost like, you know, if I touch the tool to the surface, it's almost like it gets rid of this little bit of paint and then it just dries up, and then that little tip at the end that doesn't have any paint on it, it's not letting any more paint travel down it. Do you know what I mean? I hope that makes sense, but I think that might be able to help. So if you try it and then don't touch the tool to the surface, and you might have already tried this, but that might be an option to help with that. Start by not touching the tool to the surface until the paint starts to kind of flow a little bit more. So give that a shot. Yes, under tools and supplies. If you get stuck in the Facebook group, there's one in my bio as well. But I always start first without touching the tool to the surface, and that's like it keeps the paint flowing. But if I touch the tool to the surface on the first dot, it's like it completely stops it. Well, and that's going to be a hurdle for you for sure, Jerry Lynn, right? Because all of that, you know, like you said, the lack of humidity and the heat and everything. But try, like that one there. See, I touched it to the surface too soon, and it really wasn't flowing off of there. The other thing is make sure you are cleaning off your tool before you dip it in for more paint. So the only reason I'm not cleaning this off after every dot is because I'm doing a few dots on one dip into the paint, right? So give that a shot. That might help a little bit. Oh, glitter. Where the heck did glitter come from? I have glitter around here. Huh. Who knew? All right, so let's keep going. And see if that helps at all to not touch it down on the surface very hard at all. Awesome, Cindy. Let me know if that works. Let me know if that makes a difference for you. 114 and 7% humidity. Oh my God. It's pretty hot in California too, Catherine. I'm so sorry, you guys. Oh my goodness. Please take care of yourselves. Stay hydrated. Look after yourselves. Oh, and yay, Maudie's dolling with me. Oh, thanks, Sharon. Yep, you're right. It was those little pieces, those little papers. Yep, they were covered in glitter. You're right. Thank you for the reminder. There we go. I'm in Ontario where we get 90-degree weather with a crap ton of humidity. Try the not touching the tool to the surface first. So like just touching, letting the paint come off of the tool and see if that makes a difference. If you haven't already, of course. Okay, now we're going on to the next row. Doing it again. I'm going to wait until all of these rows are done before I do a zoom out. To make sure that we've got some really cool effect. What are you painting on today, Molly? And is anybody else painting along too? Whether you're painting along with my design or if you're just sitting and painting while we're hanging out, let us know what you're working on. Yeah, winter would be wonderful there. I like the heat too, Catherine. I enjoy the heat an awful lot. Is Vacayville, I know you've mentioned, we've talked about this before, Catherine. Is it San Diego area? Yeah, you had a lot of energy this morning, Molly. What did you go and do? You just went out and did things and biked around everywhere. Nice. That's awesome. I miss going for bike rides. Tropical depression coming through. Ugh. Christy is dotting bright red on a light blue background. Ooh. Afraid adding white will make it too pink. Yeah, adding white can be really, really tricky with that. It's almost, yeah, you're almost at a point where you'd have to just add in a lighter red or a brighter red into that darker red that you have, in order to get it to stand out. Because yeah, you could add like 1 drop of white, like literally 1 drop, and just see if that helps a little bit and test it off to the side. But that's a really tough one. Oh, that's a good idea, Molly. Yeah, adding like an orange or even a blue, like if you want to go more, you could add something like that. Painting on a new thing that I'll be launching soon. Ooh, very cryptic, Molly. I'm excited to see. Yeah, the orange is a good idea. Orange is a really good idea. Gotcha. You send me some of your rain. We just had the first rain in quite a while here. We needed it so bad. The well was pretty dry. So we're all very relieved that there was some rain that came through. Oh, now you're just seeing my hand in front of your faces. I'm so sorry. Let's turn again here. Sharon's painting with me. Yeah, that's a hard one, Christy, because the reds especially tend to be a little bit more translucent, I find. Like getting a really nice opaque red can be a little bit more difficult. And yeah, to brighten it up, it's really, really tough. Now, is it something that you could use and then eventually do some top dots on and add like some orange and yellow top dots to your red as part of the rainbow part of it? And that could maybe make the red pop a little bit more. Oh, you're working sometimes the large water pitcher and sometimes a small rock. Nice. Back and forth, back and forth. Okay. Oh, gotcha, Catherine. Wish I had the power to solve drought. No kidding, right? Wouldn't that be nice if we could do that? Oh, that's a good idea, Molly. There you go. Living without city water is definitely a struggle. Our well has been pretty good this year. Oh, good. That's so good. Doing last night's design on a glass gallon pickle jar, all blues. Nice. Ooh, that sounds beautiful. Lovely. All right, here we go. Nice. I'm going to break out the paints to finish off the hurricane vase that I started last year. One of these days. Figure get it painted before I move it out to the trailer with me. It's a rainbow swirl heart magnet for a teacher gift. Oh yeah, top dots might do the trick then. Yeah. How do you know whether to put 1 or 2 dots in between the larger dots? So that's a really good question. It really depends on how much of your background color you want to show through. So if you want it to be a little bit more of the background color, stick with 1 dot. Or if you want it to be a little bit less of the background color, you could go with 2. Now the other thing is too, is that when you do a single dot, it's going to almost create a distinct line around your project, right? Like it's a string of dots. So that can impact things as well. If that's the look you're going for, is for creating almost like a border like I've done with this one. If you want it to blend in a little bit more, then you could probably do the 2 dots and it would make it look a little bit less like a band, but it would still look like a band to a certain extent because it would look almost like just a thicker ribbon, right? Whereas this almost reminds me of a string of Christmas beads that you put up on a Christmas tree with those little bits there. I'm painting along on the rainbow and enjoying the group chat. Oh, and the feeling of connection here. I'm so glad, Christy. I'm so glad. That makes my heart so happy. That makes my heart really, really happy. Yeah, very much so, Jerry Lynn. Yeah, it's personal preference. And you know what, Molly? If you're unsure, try a couple of each, and the one that you don't like, paint back over and do it the other way, right? Do some tests and try it out and see what looks good. And if you're not happy with it, you can always go and redo it, right? I had to wash off my hand. I've been cleaning off my tool on my hand and I had so much paint on there. I'm so glad, Christy. I can't wait to get you out for a visit soon. That would be nice if we could do that in the next couple of months. But I think at the very least, you, me, and Miss Kathy should do a Zoom or something at some point and catch up. I'm sure I've told you guys before, me and Christy and Kathy used to go to trivia nights all the time together in downtown Toronto. That's how I met Christy, is through my friend Kathy, who introduced me to Christy at these trivia nights. And oh my God, we have so much fun. So much fun. Should be illegal. We have so much fun. And we miss each other an awful lot. We were going every couple of months. There was a couple of months where we went to 4 or 5 of them. They used to do different themes, so they do different TV shows and movies. But then they have their music trivia nights, and those are the fun ones. What do we call it, Christy? It's like karaoke with it's like karaoke without the crippling social anxiety for standing up in front of people. Oh, poor dog's having a hard time with the heat. Poor guy. Oh, I hope he's okay. Before heading to the park with Pat, Chemist said to tell you that you're painting as well. Oh, tell Chemist thank you. That's so sweet. Can always do a redo. I'm restocking my mugs and didn't realize that the center dot of one wasn't dry. Oh no. Yeah, that's tough when you have to work inwards. Right? Going from the outside in. That's something I'd like to do eventually, actually, is, and maybe that'll be one of our tutorials. We're going to say, we're going to start a painting and work from the outside in and see what we can create. Working from the outside in, that could be interesting. That could be fun, Molly. I knew what you meant. It's okay, Christy. Catherine, I went to bingo the other night and won the last game. That's amazing. The last jackpot's usually, what, a good $1,000? That's awesome. I love bingo. Bingo was fun. He wanted to keep his finger on the love response. Oh, that's so sweet. That's so sweet. Yeah, I don't know either, Molly, but I think it could be really interesting to try. Really interesting to try. All right, let's keep turning. I'm excited for this pullback to see how it looks. Now, again, keep in mind that as far as timing is concerned, ooh, that was way too much paint. Holy cow. As far as timing is concerned, like this is taking 2 hours for us to go through this, but of course we've been talking as well, right? So keep in mind that the detail does take time, but I find that it's it's just such a gratifying part of the process, because every time you take that step back and just kind of look at it, you see something different than what you saw before you zoomed in and started going up super close, right? It's almost like you forget what it looks like. It's one of those things that I always say to myself, why didn't you take a before picture and an after picture and show this is it before detail and this is it after detail, just to see the difference? I'll have to do that one of these days and create like a side-by-side split image of with detail and without. Hi, Kim. How are you? Nice, Catherine. That's awesome. That is nothing to shake a stick at. That's fantastic. Yes, Molly is known for her issue with her autocorrect. We are going to be getting t-shirts made that say Blessed Poo, which is the big one. When you sneeze, you don't get a bless you when you're here. You get a Blessed Poo. That lady that was on the live with us that time, she's going to do up some designs and see what she can do up for us. That'd be cool, eh? Get Blessed Poo t-shirts. Yeah, we totally will have to do another. We can totally do that in a joint live, Molly. That would be fun. We totally need to do that again. I'm going to say give me until I'm settled in the camper, because then things are going to open up wildly as far as my schedule is concerned. Right? I'm going to have so much more time to schedule more of that stuff in once I'm out there. So let's plan on something in July. We can always do another joint live before then, but it would have to be a shorter one. But for a bigger one like that, let's wait and do it in July, if you don't mind. And once I get settled out there, and then woohoo, we'll be cooking with gas. That could be really fun. I think that would be really fun to do together. Try a different design, challenge each other a bit, right? You'd think after 9 years my tech would recognize my son's name. You would think so. 2 others, 1, 2. Oh, okay, gotcha. But that's still not bad for an evening of entertainment to come home with $117 in your pocket. Yeah, it totally brings it to life. Totally. I bet. It's so fun. No, t-shirts are not a joke, Molly. They are coming. You just wait. I'm sure we will have to come up with some strategy to create a really cool TikTok for that, Molly, when it happens. I'm sure there's some editing and stuff that we could do to like recreate when the original happened, right? Recreate the sneeze, recreate you typing bless you, blessed poo, and then all of the caps. No, 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 that's not what I meant. Blessed poo, stop. That could be a really fun TikTok. And then end it all with, well, I'm embracing it, right? And have your t-shirt. Oops. Blessed Poo is the prolific, right? Of holy shit. Oh my God, Barb. Oh my God, it is too. I never even thought about it that way. I just kept going with bless you. Oh my God. There you go, Molly. You can sell holy shit t-shirts without selling holy shit t-shirts. That would be so funny. First night since COVID. Oh, that's so good. That must have been so good. That must have been felt so good, Catherine. I'm so happy for you. Recreate me dying of laughter the entire rest of the live stream without stopping, right? I couldn't. It was so much. Yeah, just no poo emoji. I agree, Sharon. We don't need a poo emoji. Totally agree with that. I never thought of it from the politically correct version of holy shit, though. That's fantastic. For anybody who's listening, yes, we swear on tutorials sometimes. It's so funny because I want to always be as authentic as I possibly can be, but then there's the side of me, I'm like, if I swore as much on my lives as I do in real life, I would be a little worried that nobody would come back. Or who it would bring in. I curse like a sailor. Yeah, that could. Well, that's my handwriting on the bad word mugs. So maybe I have to come up with a design. She said she was going to try and come up with something for us, but I'll come up with a couple of things too. I had thought just of a really nice handwriting and then putting like a halo above the word poo or something. Here, let me move that. So we're getting very close here, you guys. I'm excited for this zoom out because it's going to make a big, big, big difference. And we're going to see a little bit of oomph factor here. And it's really gratifying to start to see your piece come together. And you start to get a much clearer look at what it's going to look like when it's done, right? And that gets to be really, really fun. And it can be very motivating to continue moving forward. Almost done. Almost time for a zoom out. Yeah, we would totally have to do a mandala, don't we? I've done fairly well with my substitutions, haven't I? I catch myself most of the time. But then, of course, the voice in my head is like, that's not authentic. That's not authentic. Just swear that's you. I'm like, no, I also like to not offend people. So that's also authentic. But it's the voices in your head sometimes. Right? All right. So I'm going to actually stand this up for a second. Oh, I should probably move the white paint so I don't spill it on anything. Now let's have a look. We ready? There we go. Isn't it crazy that little tiny bits of detail like that can make such a big difference, right? So all those little tiny dots. Oops, this is not going to tilt up further. There we go. All those little tiny dots. Nice and close. But then when you zoom out, it does create some super cool detail. So it's still creating, there's still enough detail in there and still enough contrast that you can see it, but even from far away, it still looks nice, right? So again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait until I'm done more of the detail in here to decide if anything needs to go in these spaces, because I'm on the fence a little bit. I might want more of the black canvas to show through there, right? So we're going to wait and see how that looks as we progress. But doing these pullbacks And really stepping back and taking a look at it can save you an awful lot of headaches, okay? And it's really gratifying. Stop and as wonderful as it is to really get into flow and to, you know, get into the zone and just sink yourself into a piece of work for a huge chunk of time, it's also really, really enjoyable to just sit it up like this and just look at it and really take it in. Figure out, how does it make you feel? How does it make you want to progress with it? Are you happy with the way that it looks? Where are there little pieces that are jumping out at you that just seem blank or that need something else, right? So imagine once we get more top dots in the center going around, and we can actually do that now. Let's add some more top dots, shall we? Indeed. All right, here we go. Let's zoom back in. We're going to do some more top dots on those 2 center rings. Okay, so you may recall that we did the slightly lighter shade of purple on this, and now we are going to do a white top dot. Nice and small, right in there. Now see, I'm looking at this and I'm not seeing the other color at all. It's almost like nowhere near enough of a difference. So let's try something completely different here. It's like Monty Python. And now for something completely different. And thank you guys. I'm glad you like it. Okay, so we're going to add a couple extra colors for these top dots because I'm not happy with the distinction in those ones there. Right? There's just not enough color distinction, and even on these ones out here. So here's what I'm going to do. The lightest color that I have is color number 1. I am going to add a little bit of white because that's what I did add as a top dot here on the second row. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little bit of white and a little bit of this purple, and we are going to create something in between the white and the purple. So this is actually going to create a 6th shade for us. A 6th shade of purple. So I've got that purple in there. And then the number 1, I'm actually going to put on as a top dot for the 3rd row. So let me grab my white. That wasn't white. That would not have been good if I'd added that color. I finally found the Seafoam green at a Dollarama. It's the first time literally ever that I've found the sea spray color. It's so pretty. But that's what I almost added to my purple. So that would have been really not good. Bring me a shrubbery. I bet this canvas would look amazing next to my mug because they match. They probably would. I did. I finally got that color. I'm excited to use it. Okay, so I'm going to add a little bit of white to that purple. And we're going to mix it up and see. I don't want to make it too crazy light, but I want it to be distinct enough that I can go back over and redo that layer of top dots. I'm going to actually add just a little bit more. We are the knights who say, nee. I'm going to have to watch Monty Python now. That was so good. There's a movie theater near Christy's house, and they used to do retro movie nights, and we went and watched Monty Python and the Holy Grail at the movie theater. Was that last summer? No, it was before that, wasn't it? Yeah, nothing happened last summer. Just remembered. Took me a minute. Yeah, that was fun. That was a lot of fun. All right, let me just catch up. Sea spray by itself is a weird color. Yeah, but I think it'll look good with some other colors, right? Like, or it might even mix in with different ones. But I was just like, I've never had it and I don't have it, so I got to take it home and then I'll decide how much I like it. You found something at the store. Was it 2 years ago, Christy? No. Really? That's bananas. Bananas. Not okay. Not okay. We need to get back to that stuff. There's very little socializing that I have any desire to do, but going to those movies with you and Kathy, and yeah, those are the things that I can get on board with doing again. All right, so I'm going back over these white dots that I didn't like, something slightly lighter, and I think that's going to make a big difference. See how now I can actually tell the distinction between the colors? So now when I go in and put a white dot on top of that, it's going to make more sense because we can see it more. So just, it's a good reminder though that just because you don't have it mixed in the beginning doesn't mean you can't mix something that you need as you go along, right? Take care of what you need, add in what you need, create the extra shades that you need, mix on the fly. It's totally okay. I've gotten so hyper-focused on pre-mixing my colors that a lot of the spontaneity of when I first started has come out of my paintings, you know, and that's something that it's really been kind of hitting me lately. I'm like, you know what, I just need to start off with a few colors and then just sit and stare at all my paints and go, okay, now what? And just see what I can come up with and what do I want to mix together to create these different gradients. I've got this beautiful piece that was one of my very, very first pieces and I love it, but I look at it and I'm trying to mentally go in and say, how did I mix all the paints for that? And I'm like, because I didn't. That's when I did everything from a paint palette. So I would choose a few and I'd mix a couple colors here. Yeah, I want to go back to that one. No, I want to mix it with this one and switch it up a little bit. Like it was so much more spontaneous. And yeah, it's definitely something I'd like to get back to. Trying some of that stuff again. All right, so now I'm going back to color number 1 and I'm going to redo the top dots here with color number 1. Like so. So there's, again, more difference there now. We're actually going to see a bit of distinction. I've got that extra lighter color that I'll actually put on top of this one and then do the white dot. So this feels much better. I feel like that's going to create much more of that 3D effect that we're hoping for with the top dots. Now, decisions need to be made on these bands of color. And this is your own personal decision that you need to make. On the bands of these purple dots, do you want to put top dots on any of them? Do you want to just let them be the bands of color that they are, right? But decisions need to be made at some point. I'm personally going to leave mine until I get all of my other detail done. Because if I start putting too much detail in there, it might cloud things up a little bit and get things looking a little messy. Young Frankenstein. Oh my God, that's right. So good. Send it to you when you least expect it, so it'll just be a random package. Molly, you're so sweet. You don't have to do that. My friend has the paint powders and mixes her own colors, and wow, ooh, that sounds fun. I ordered some watercolors too. So I've started drawing again because I'm going to paint in with watercolors. I'm really excited to get those paints. I'm really hoping that they arrive beginning of next week because I'm dying to try them. I have no idea how to use watercolors. Dreamland Calligraphy is who I got them from. And then there's also Rain City Calligraphy. And they make, excuse me, they make watercolors as well. So I'm excited to give them a try, play with it a little bit. I'm interested in those paint powders though. So like, where do you get the paint powders and what do you mix it with? I just got eco-friendly paint powder and I'm so oh, nice. Where'd you get them from, Molly? I want to know. I want to know. All right. So I am not going to, so there we go. See how you're starting to see the dimension come out there a little bit? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do the walking dots down the middle here. And actually, you know what? No, I'm not going to. because right now I'm okay with how it looks. And I think if anything, I'll add some lighter detail in the middle here. So I'm going to actually leave that for a bit. Real milk paint. And you just mix it with water. Wow, that's cool. Okay, so I'm not going to do top dots on these bands right now. The tiny dots in the middle are enough of a contrast there for me for now. So what I'm going to do is go in and do some top dots for this first row of petals. And then we're going to, I think, do a few swoops in here. And that will be probably it for today. Like always, I'm going to ask you guys the same question. Do you want me to continue doing this particular painting on Saturdays until it gets done? Or do we want to take a break and do something different? I need you to be brutally honest with me. I'm okay with either. I've got work I can do on this on my own until we get back together again with it without going too far in advance. All that sort of stuff. So please let me know what you would prefer. Okay? VOC free and non-toxic so much that you can dump your paint water. Oh, no way. That's amazing. That's cool, Molly. Keep rolling with this, you guys. Okay. Okay, awesome. Yay. I'm glad. I'm happy too. She has acrylic pouring, right? But she mixes it with some... Oh, yeah, that would be so interesting. That sounds cool. I bet you it's fun to work with too. All right, so let's look at this row of petals because we are going to do some top dots on here. So I'm looking for the size tool that is going to give me a nice border around it. And I always, again, err on the side of caution and go smaller than I think I'm going to need because I want to make sure that I don't cover too much of that bottom base color. So I'm going slightly smaller than I think I'm going to need, but I'm also adding quite a bit of paint so that I can kind of play with it. And I'm actually really happy with that size of dot, I think. I think that looks nice. So while I do that, I'm going to zoom back out again so I don't have to turn it quite as often. No plastic sediment like acrylic paints. That's amazing. Well, and to know it's not going to damage your plumbing, it's not going to poison anything, it's not going to the dump, it's not going into our oceans being toxic and our water systems being toxic. That's amazing, Molly. Did you order a particular brand? Do you have a recommendation for us on that? And I'm dying to hear how you like them. Dying to hear once you start working with them. Have you got them yet? Have you received them yet? So many questions for Molly today. That's really cool though, Catherine. That's interesting to see that you can do that with paints for pouring too. There's so much stuff out there. There's so much stuff out there. But see how, actually, sorry, see how these dots are now kind of glowing a little bit? Let me pull back again. So I've completed from here to here. Those dots look a little more glowy than these ones, right? Oh, I just dumped my paint. Oh, okay. Caught it before it spilled. So let me actually set this up here for a second, and I'm going to set it on this side so you can see that the right side of the painting, see how the right side has that extra bit of color, and then the left side is flatter. They both look good, but it's nice to see that perspective there. I'm going to turn this again, and back here we go. So many paint companies out there through the world. No kidding, eh? Yeah, please give us the rundown, Molly. There's so much out there. There's so many options out there. It's crazy. It's almost overwhelming, right? How many choices there are. I think that's why you see people really find something that they like and really stick with it, because, you know, there's just so many, overwhelmingly so many options out there to choose from, that the idea of going through more of a testing process is kind of like, really? I don't think I can do that again. You know, there's so much that goes into it. But there's some cool stuff out there. I love watching the people who make watercolor paints though, watching them mix them on the glass and put them into the little pots and everything. I think it looks so cool. Okay. Okay, so we have 15 minutes left. Do I do swoops in here, or do I continue with top dots on here? Or sorry. So I can do some swoops in here, or we can wait until next week when we have a good chunk of time. My thought is to do top dots here and top dots out here for the last 15, and then we'll start off next week with some swoops right in here and start filling in these details in the second section. Blah, blah. Highly recommend you try it if it works for me. Since you're a larger business, it would be great. It would be wonderful I could do that. Okay, we're going to keep going with the top dots. All right, so the next row I used color number 5, the darkest purple. So this time I'm going to do my first layer of top dots with my number 4, which is my second darkest. Okay, now I'm going to find a different tool. No, not that one. There it is. I'm going to go with a size 7, I think, on this one. Maybe even an 8. And this is going to feel nice because it's really going to help those colors pop out. Top dots, the real milk paint. Okay, I totally will. Thanks, Molly. I'm really happy with how it's going so far too. And the spots where I'm stuck, I know that they will work themselves out. I will get some kind of streak of inspiration and everything will be fine. All right, turn this again, and there we go. Leaving lots of room for lots of other top dots to go on top here and really give these center dots in these petals a lot of dimension. I love doing the top dots because I find that they're just so satisfying. Even when it's a really tiny, subtle difference, they give it a little bit of wow. Itchy ear. Gotta check my lottery tickets from last night too. Maybe I won $70 million and don't know it yet. Maybe that's why I'm cranky, because I got all this money waiting for me to go pick up and I haven't claimed it yet. And I don't know about it. All right, so we're going to go out to this edge now. Now, these are a combination. These ones are dot number. This is color number 4, and these ones are color number 5. So while I still have color number 4, the second darkest out, I'm going to go ahead and do the top dots on these dark ones. So I'm going to grab another size tool again. And is it going to be a 10? Yeah, it's going to be a 10. So we're going to start here. There's going to be a lot of spinning in this one, guys, so prepping you for potential dizziness here. Lots of movement. I'm excited to hear how you like those paints, Molly. That'd be cool. Gonna get going now. Have a good rest of your day. Take Karen. Where do we take Karen? Poor Molly and her autocorrect. Molly, you poor soul. You take care too, Molly. I hope you have a great rest of your weekend. It was good seeing you. It's nice to see you here on Facebook with us. And we'll definitely do a joint live soon. Soon. If you guys aren't following Mall Rocks on Instagram, I highly recommend you go follow her. And of course on TikTok, she's mallrocks.co on TikTok. Oh, I moved my paint too far away. There we go. Here. 2, 3. And a 1. There we go. That color's done. So now I'm going to grab color number 3 because these ones are color number 4, which is the second lightest. So I'm going to go to the mid-range color, which is number 3. You have an idea for the small petal issue? Let's hear it. What you got? And there we go. All right, here we go. So a few more of these first layers of top dots, and then we're actually going to go back into the center really quick and add a couple more there as well. Doo-doo-doo. I didn't turn the sound on the video recording for last night again, Sharon. I'm a bonehead. When I did the mug party, so I do the mug parties on Google Meet, and so then I have to do a screen recording to capture the tutorial to be able to send it out to the people who attended. And the problem is if you do a screen recording without jumping in and giving access to your microphone, it's a silent movie. And I thought I had, but apparently it doesn't stay a permanent access thing. You have to go in every single time you use it. Large swoops at the top. So do some large swoops like right here. Oh, sorry. Like do large swoops out here. And do my swoop starting there. Oh, that would work. That could be interesting. Then a second set of swoops that don't go all the way around. Okay. Yeah, I could totally do that. I like that idea. Oh, and we have some detail in here because we're going to add the white dots in here as well. But let's go back into the center and look at the creaking of my phone arm. But let's go in here because now we can do the final top dot on some of these. So I'm going to grab my white paint. I'm holding my white paint in my hand though because I've got other top dots that I have to reach across. And there we go with the white. I think I'm actually going to go in with that lighter yellow, that lighter mauve, and actually cover up those little white ones in there because I don't like how large those white top dots are. Like I like them how small they are on this row. So I think I'm going to mix an even lighter mauve to go on that center row. So we'll do that here too. You see how tiny those top dots are in comparison? Right? So I'd like all of the white ones to be about the same size dot whenever possible, or at least be proportionate to the size of the dot as a whole, right? So the dot in the first row is a heck of a lot smaller than the dot here, but this top dot is a lot bigger. So I'm not a huge fan. So all this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna take my paint palette again. Meant swoops around the petals, okay? Sounds like my house when it's really windy. Get a lot of the creaking. Okay, so let me zoom out. I'm going to bring you over here where I mix and paint. There go. And grab my white paint, where did I put it? Oh, sure. Not where I got it from. That is not where I put it. There we go. Lots of white in that one. Give it a good mix. I'm going to try and pick it up so that I don't shake you guys too badly. It's definitely a lot lighter than that one. I think I'm going to make it even just a little bit lighter. That'll be better. Much better. Okay. So now that I've got this, make sure it's good and mixed up. Now I'm going to move back here into the center and we're going to zoom in. And we're going to fix those ones. I'm going to sneeze first though. Excuse me. Okay. Oh, my palette's got all kinds of dog hair on it. There we go. All right, here we go. And then this is going to be it for today. So I'm going to go in here. I'm actually going to bring a little bit more paint in. Dink. That's better. And then a little teeny tiny white dot on top of that. That's going to be much better. Thank you for the blessed pose. Much appreciated. Of course, that happened after Molly was gone. There we go. So yeah, once this dries, I'll be able to go back in with white again and do that nice, oh, and I missed a couple dots there. Totally missed a couple on the left-hand side. Whoop, and I almost put my paint on top of wet paint. So we recovered right here. Forgot this one and this one. There we go. I think that should make a better idea. Blue's climbed on top of a pile consisting of some folded quilt. Oh, Blue. Like the princess and the pea climbing up on all the pillows. All right, so I'm going to move this and then we're going to do another zoom out. Now we're looking at the zoom out. I'm going to set it up, sitting up like so. And you can already start to see some of the dimension coming through, right? There's something about it. So sometimes I'll look at it and go, it doesn't really look that different from far away, but there's something about it that looks different, right? There's something about it that makes it look more, gives it more oomph, gives it more something, and it's usually the top dot detail. So as I get doing the little tiny detail in here, and as I get doing the top dot detail, it's going to tell me very clearly what I want to do within here. Because right now, this in here feels a lot darker. But I'm also not done all of my top dots, right? I've got more layers of top dots to do there. I could look at layers of top dots to do on the swoops. And then I can always look at adding more in these spaces, depending on how it looks when it's completely done. Yes, Catherine, thank you. Yes, it's the depth. It does. It looks like it's kind of jumping out at you a little bit more. So definitely right now, this is feeling like it does need some more depth. It's feeling a little flat and a little dark, but I don't want to make too many decisions on that until I see what the rest of it looks like and how much we add in here so that I can kind of try and stick with that. So I'm going to keep working on this stuff around the outside. I'm going to add these little white dots on this big row, this big band as well. When we come back next week, we will work on swoops in here, or whatever detail we're going to do in here, detail in here, and maybe some detail in here. And then we'll probably be able to do some in here as well. Okay. Of a Mayan calendar. Ooh, that's cool. I like that. I'm so glad, you guys. And if you have any questions at all, please don't hesitate to reach out. I know I haven't been putting the events on the Facebook page. I promise you I'm trying to get my shit together. Just always know that I promise you I'm doing the best that I can. And I know you guys are fine with it. And I know you guys understand. And I know you guys aren't judging. And that's not where this is coming from at all. This is my own brain just needing to say those things. But I'm grateful that you guys come to spend some time with me. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your weekend. I've listed more mug parties on my website, so if you want to check them out in case there's any that you'd like to come and hang out at, then take a look there. And if you have any questions at all, please don't hesitate to reach out. So Patreon members, just know that part 4 is coming. It's just going to be a silent video. And if it's going to be silent, I might as well hyperlapse it up. And then this one should be on Patreon very, very soon. For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, Patreon is the site where it's basically a membership site where you can access the entire library of every Saturday tutorial that I've done so far. And that's where my whole library of tutorials is in there. So if you have any questions, please let me know. I'm glad you guys are liking it. And thank you, Cindy. That's so nice. Thank you, Anna. I'm so glad you were able to join. And Catherine, it was so wonderful to spend time with you too. I love spending time with you guys too. You guys are totally a wonderful group of new friends, and we're building a great little community here. So thank you for continuing to add your love to it. Take care of yourselves, please. Lots of love, and I will see you again very, very soon. Bye, guys. Love you.